What's good, YouTube? This video is going to be about a dating mistake or relationship mistake that a lot of women make, and a huge red flag that guys are looking for and disqualifying women on, and they might not even know it. One mistake a lot of women make in relationships revolves around their idea of communication or their absorption of a man's communication. Recently, I posted on my YouTube community tab about an issue I commonly have in my comment sections and from the responses I get in some videos. I brought this issue up not just to scold or to correct those in my comment sections, but to also bring light to a subject that happens in a woman's relationship that causes a lot of damage and causes a man to either shut down or leave her behind and detach himself emotionally. A lot of women's habit to interpret and listen to respond instead of listen to understand. Instead of accepting the words that a man actually says, rephrasing, remixing whatever his words were, and then going by that meaning to either win an exchange, an argument, or to vilify and invalidate what a man is saying. So what I'm going to do is read my community post, because at the time the context was about the people who are ingesting the information I give, and then I'll tie it back to relationships. So last week on my community tab, I wrote this. For the easily offended, I said what I said. I didn't say what you felt. I said what I said. Please stop interpreting my words and just listen. Don't remix my words. It will only hurt your feelings. So what you're saying is, so you're basically saying, or so what you really mean cannot be the only way that you absorb information. The captions provide context. Please pause to read them. Some people can't learn because they reject any perspective they hadn't already had or agreed with. Just because you didn't previously know it or experience it doesn't make it false. You can't grow if you have an inability to process information you don't like. I hope this doesn't read saucy. I'm in a great place today. I hope whoever needed to hear this is too. That's what I put on my YouTube community post. Right? It was in direct response of 30 or 40 comments that I read over the last couple of weeks of people just interpreting and remixing my words and then arguing the points that they created when they remixed my words. And I realized, and I've always realized this, a lot of women do this in their relationships. They can't just have a conflict or have a disagreement. If at any point they're losing the argument of logic, they defer to remixing a man's words to change what he meant, regurgitate it as a completely different message, vilify that, and then argue that message instead of just hearing what a man is trying to say. And then they complain about a man not opening up, not communicating, not wanting to talk, deflecting, avoiding conversations. Sometimes a man is in a no-win situation when he knows whatever words he uses won't be good enough for you, that you'll make up your own words and then judge what he's saying based off of your emotional response to the words that you made up in your own head. Too often women listen to interpret instead of listen to really understand. Everything can't be about how you feel about what's being communicated. Sometimes it has to just be about exactly what's being communicated. Now, I signed up for this. I'm an influencer or a YouTuber or a guru or whatever the hell you might want to call somebody who makes videos for a living. So I get that sometimes I'm not going to be understood. I made peace with the fact that whether or not you understand it correctly, I'm not always going to be the good person in your mind. I understand that people are going to disagree with me. I'm speaking to thousands of, if not millions of people if I ever go viral at a time. I get that. But in your personal relationships, you don't have the luxury of making shit up when you don't want to concede to lose an argument. You don't have the luxury of maintaining a healthy relationship and a free-flowing line of communication, and also reimagining, reinterpreting, and remixing a man's words when you're trying to get through an issue or a struggle. What you're saying is, basically, what I'm hearing is, so what you really mean is, all of those are you trying to find a way to invalidate what was said to you instead of just hearing it and accepting it. This is exhausting for men because they don't know how to communicate with people who are going to make shit up about what they just said. Now, of course, men have their issues, and I know the comment section is going to be full about, well, what about men? What about men? Again, we're doing it again. You're trying to win an argument instead of just hearing the information. Some women listen to interpret, other women listen to compete with the trauma being stated. This is exhausting, and you do it in your relationships, not just in these comment sections. Too often I do a video about the struggles that men have, or the needs that men have, or the desires that men have. Half of the comments are about, well, what about when so-and-so happens to women? What about when women go through this? What about when women da-da-da-da-da? You're not coming to learn, you're coming to compete. We can't be measuring trauma and having a competition on who has it worse with every single conversation. And you do this in your personal lives, in your personal relationships. Your man says he had a bad day. You got to top him. You got to trump that. No, your day was bad. Your man said he works hard. No, you got to work hard. Your man says he's unhappy with something, or he's having a struggle. You got a whole list of shit that is more important than the thing that he's trying to communicate to you that is an issue for him. Whether you're trying to compete with his struggle, victimize yourself in what he's trying to communicate to you, or trump his pain or trauma in a way to invalidate whatever he's saying, it makes it very difficult for men to just speak and say what they need to say. Too often I'm on the phone with my clients and they're telling me what a guy has done or said. And I ask him, is that exactly what he said? Is that his words verbatim? Well, no, he says something to that effect. Well, what did he really say? I don't know. I don't remember. Well, why don't you just deal with his words? You should remember, because you're responding to the things that you just told me, but you don't even remember what he said. At some point, his words have to matter, not your ideas about his words, not your feelings about his words. Yes, there are some shitty men for you in the comment section still going off about what men do, but that's not the conversation right now. That's my point. You're trying to win the debate of who has it worse. You're trying to compete for who's the bigger victim in the situation. Who's victimized more? When that's not the context of this conversation. The context of this conversation is a red flag for men and an issue that a lot of men are having in relationships that cause them to step away. This is not a comfortable topic for some of you, but far too many of you right now are trying to figure out how to make an intellectual argument for why I am blaming the woman when that's not the context of this conversation. Stop listening to interpret. Stop listening to vilify. Stop listening to get even or compare or contrast or compete. If you have a man, or if you're in a relationship, or if you're growing into a relationship, the biggest thing that you can do, or that some of you can do, is learn to listen to understand instead of listening to interpret or compete or win. Sometimes what we need is a paradigm shift, and that takes the skill of introspection from us. That takes for us to be able to look at ourselves and judge ourselves accurately. How you feel about what a person's saying, especially when you're trying to resolve a conflict in your relationship, isn't more important than what they're saying, if what they're saying is important to them. Take your opportunities to hash out your issues that you want respect for, you want acknowledgement for, you want validation for your feelings and your emotions. Men need the same thing. Stop trying to win every situation and just listen to what's being said and accept those words instead of rephrasing everything and then arguing with the remix that you made in your head. And please, if you got that down pat in your relationship, come to my channel and do the same thing. Just listen. Don't remix. Anyway, I hope this helps. Follow me at KevVic24 on Instagram. Please hit the notification bell if you haven't already. Subscribe if you haven't already. Share my videos if you haven't already. Thanks for watching. I'll get with y'all later.